This is only the second telling of this tale in almost 40 years. In 1973, at the ever-observant age of 4, I had my first brush with the paranormal. On a hazy autumn morning, my mother unexpectedly interrupted my routine when she dressed me in new going somewhere clothes. She explained to me that we were to attend a wake that day. Even at that young age, I knew that a wake had something to do with death. Furthermore, I could sense her discomfort, so I did not ask her any questions. She did add that it was not for a relative of ours, but of our friend, Geraldine. As our taxi pulled into the funeral home, Geraldine greeted us and accompanied in to meet the family. Unlike my mother, I knew no one there and felt a little intimidated, so I was relieved when Mom asked Geraldine to stay with me as she went into the viewing parlor to pay her respects. Geraldine sat with me in the lobby as family members conversed in small groups. I looked around, hoping to see any children that might be there. There were none, but I couldn't help noticing one person in particular. An older gent, probably in his late 50s, was listening in on a conversation extremely intently. He was a little gaunt and seemed to be very worried. He stood there with his hand on his cheek, shoulder to shoulder with one of the mourners. I watched as he left this group to listen in on another and then another, looking a little more pained each time. No one even so much as looked at him. Interesting. I remember wondering, with my innocent and limited grasp of the concept of mortality, if he was the man we were here to see. With that, the man turned and looked directly at me. He looked at me inquisitively and then offered up a meek smile. My eyes widened and I turned my gaze away. My heart racing, I could not resist looking back once more as I tugged on Geraldine's blouse. I successfully got her attention, but to my dismay, he could no longer be found. It was just then when my mother made her way back to us asking if I was ready to go home. I was more than willing. She thanked me for being a big boy and behaving so well while she was gone. I have always known that the situation could be rationalized as one not of a paranormal nature, but the feeling I experienced were so intense that no rational explanation has ever seemed to satisfy. Why would no one acknowledge him? And it seemed that he only saw me after I wondered if he were dead. I scanned the room thoroughly for him as we left to no avail, whereas I easily noticed the strange man before. To this very day, I've never been able to shake the eerie suspicion that I witnessed a ghost at his own wake. What do you think? It started when my boyfriend's father bought the funeral home and wanted my boyfriend and me to move out of state to take care of it because his parents didn't want to move out of state. I quit my job and moved out of state with my boyfriend to help his parents take care of the funeral home. When my boyfriend and I first got to the funeral home, it was big, spacious, and a bit creepy. The outside was beautiful as well as the inside, but the place had many doors, all of which eventually led back to the main room. My boyfriend often sees dark figures mostly on this one side, near the side door that leads to the apartment on top of the funeral home. Of course, no one lives on top of the funeral home. Too scary. I've never seen anything the whole time I've been there, but one time I was going to use the fax and computer to look for a job. Being the weirdo that I am, I went to the funeral home alone. I went to the back door and the back door was unlocked, so I went inside, turned on the lights, and went to the office. I was faxing my resumes and surfing the web for jobs when all of a sudden the computer just shuts off. Figure it's time to leave. I didn't feel anything and wasn't scared until I got close to the back door. Somehow, my body was telling me to run. It got cold in the little hallway by the back door, and I felt goosebumps all over my body. I ran towards the door, not looking back, just opened the door and closed it and locked it from the outside. Ever since, I've never gone back to the funeral home alone. My boyfriend's uncle had a similar experience at the funeral home. He came to the funeral home to help my boyfriend cut the grass and rake the leaves. He got there before my boyfriend and thought my boyfriend was inside. So, he went to that same back door that I went to and found it unlocked. He thought my boyfriend was in there and walked into the same spot where I felt something. He said he called my boyfriend's name and it was dark inside and no lights. He got super scared when he realized no one was there. He ended up leaving, and ever since then, my boyfriend's uncle won't go into the funeral home by himself. If he has to go shovel snow, cut the grass, or rake the leaves, he would bring his own lawnmower or his own shovel. My boyfriend has had many experiences at that funeral home, and the scariest experience yet. When the funeral is done and everyone leaves, my boyfriend and I would make sure that the doors are all locked before we leave. There are days when we come in to get the mail, and the side door and that back door would be unlocked. We always thought that maybe someone broke in and even went inside to check, but would never find anyone. My boyfriend said one time he opened the funeral for a family to bring things to the funeral, and when he locked up all the doors were locked. He said he went to the side door and somehow it was unlocked. He said hello, and someone with a male voice answered him back saying hello to him too. He got really freaked out and wouldn't go back inside. When I got off work, he made me go with him to search the place, and like always, we would never find anyone. No matter how many times we locked the side and back door, next time we come back, it would be unlocked. Then a couple days after that door incident with my boyfriend, he said while we were sleeping in bed, he swears he saw a tall figure walked around our bed and came to his side and got on top of him. He said he tried to scream for me to wake up, but I couldn't hear him. When he finally broke free, he woke me up and he was drooling all over his pillow. He was so scared that we slept with the bedroom door closed, and we both prayed before bed and put crosses up around the house and inside our room. 3 weeks later, he drove out of state to see his parents, and his mom took him to see a shaman lady. She said that a female ghost from the funeral liked him a lot. It was the female ghost that answered him, disguising her voice as the male voice that answered by him, and she was the one that followed him home. The shaman lady told my boyfriend that she told the spirit to leave, and everything should be fine now. I was home alone in our apartment when my boyfriend went out of state. The night my boyfriend left, I had rolled over to his side, and I could have sworn something was on top of me because I looked at the alarm clock and I could swear I was up, but somehow still asleep too. I remember hearing myself pray and sing a Christian song in my head. I woke up singing the Christian song out loud, and only 2 minutes had passed. I wasn't scared or anything. I just prayed and then thought it was a dream and went back to bed. The next day, late at night, my boyfriend told me what the shaman lady said, which creeped me out. After that, we haven't had any experiences with the funeral home. We had alarms put in the funeral home because the doors kept unlocking by themselves, and we put a bolt on the side door, so even if it unlocks, no one can get in. I doubt anyone would want to come in. I was so glad when his parents decided to sell the funeral home. I can't see ghosts, but my boyfriend seems to attract them, and he can see them. I will have to write about our apartment that we live in now in my next story. Hopefully, I'll have it up before we move out in September. Although I've had many experiences with the supernatural, I'm going to start with the most recent and go from there. To give you some background, I work in a funeral home as an administrative assistant in Kirtland, New Mexico. I know, a funeral home, but I'm perfectly comfortable there. I've been alone in there on a number of occasions while the directors are off on a service, which is when I notice things more often than not. The main reason for this is because when the building is empty of others, it is usually quiet, except for the music that is a constant during the day. But when there are others there, there's a lot of talking and conversing going on, which tends to black out the sounds of anything spiritual going on. My office sits at the front of the building to the left of the front entryway, with the bathrooms on the other side of my office as well as the door to the prep room. The arrangement room door is catty-corner to my office door in the same hallway, with the chapel to the right of the entrance and 2 more offices in the break room behind that. The funeral home used to be a private residence, and then was a church before it finally became a funeral home. I'm not exactly sure how long the building has been there, but plan on doing some research on it when I have the time to do so without interruption. My first time alone in the building was probably about 3 weeks ago. During my first week there, Jess and Brian, I'm not using real names for obvious reasons, had to travel to another city for the services that day, so I was left to man the fort, so to speak, from 8 a.m. until they returned at around 3 p.m. that afternoon. The first thing to happen was the sound of the front door opening and closing, including the little dinger going off, so I jumped up from the company computer, where I was working on some folders and books for a family, to go greet whoever it was that just came through the front door, only to find no one in the foyer. I shrugged it off as my imagination and went back into the office to continue with my work. As the minutes passed, I had forgotten all about the odd sounds of the front door and the dinger going off, and was deep into my work at that time, concentrating hard. By this time, it was about 10:45 a.m. I had been there for a couple of hours alone already and was doing just fine. Like I said, I don't get an uncomfortable feeling in there when I heard someone walking through the building from behind me. So I, once again, left the computer where I was working to go see if someone came in, and I missed hearing the dinger to the door going off. I started checking the rooms in front of the building, making a complete circle to the back and around to see the front of the building again, to find no one there. All I could think at this point was, it has got to be my imagination. And so, I went back to my office to resume working again. About 10 minutes or so had passed by at the time, so it was probably about 11 a.m. This time, when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned to look and no one was there yet again, so I said out loud, "Hello? Can I help you with something? Are you just curious about me because I'm new here, or are you wondering if I can tell that you're here?" I didn't get an answer much, as I would have liked one, just to know for sure that I wasn't losing it. The activity stopped after that, for the rest of the day anyway. Whoever or whatever is there in that building isn't harmful, or I would have felt very uncomfortable there alone, I'm sure. I've talked to Jess about it, which has been there for 3 years now, and she admits that she has had some experiences there as well, but never anything harmful, just more curious than anything. We do have some remains of an unclaimed person in our garage that we can't do anything with, so his remains stay there, but neither Jess or I know if it is actually him that is there, or if it's previous owners of the building. Whenever I enter the building, if no one's in the front entryway or close by, I always say hello, Teddy, just in case it is, in fact, the one who is in our garage. If it's not him, I'm sure that eventually whoever it is will let me know in some way, "Hey, that's not me, I am so-and-so," and I will change my new habits. Until then, I like to think it's Teddy, and he is just looking for acknowledgement to the fact that he is who he is. I do realize this could be my imagination, or even what could be chalked up to nervousness of being alone in a funeral home. However, I myself do not believe this is the case, since I've never felt uncomfortable there since my beginning. Thank you all for the chance to submit my story, and comments are welcome as long as they aren't derogatory. Hey guys, just a little quick note here. Just wanted to let you guys know that I'm now uploading every Monday and Friday, so you don't want to miss that whenever I upload. Thank you so much, guys, and I appreciate your viewership. Signing off now, Phantom, of course. Have a great night or day.